Here's a thing I'm guessing a lot of people can relate to. You come up with an idea for a new project that would be perfect for your portfolio. You've got the subject matter figured out, you've got a concept, you've got a style in mind, you've got this whole thing kind of ironed out, and it's all up in your head. All you have to do is make it. You can see it, and then you don't make it. This video is about why you don't make that thing. What's up? This is MVA Joshua. Short little video today on why predictability leads to procrastination and what it is I mean by predictability. This was recorded in my portfolio expansion workshops. It's a one-night workshop where we dive deep on how to leverage someone's existing portfolio to get them more in the direction that they want to be going in. Hope you dig it.
Going like way back to the beginning when you were talking about the obstacles that we face in making work, you mentioned that the obstacle of knowing exactly what you need to do but not doing that. You mentioned that it's sometimes more of a creative process problem than it is a procrastination problem. And I was just kind of curious if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Why does knowing exactly what you want to do with a project sometimes become the whole reason you don't do the project? So you're like a graphic designer. There is a part of what you do that is inherently about discovery and adventure. Even in the most boring graphic design job, just the fact that someone else comes to you and says, we need to make this thing, and we need you to make it. The fact that if they didn't come to you, you would never make that thing. It wouldn't exist. It doesn't matter how crappy your job is, there's some semblance of that. But ideally, there's a big semblance of it. So that incorporates some bit of adventure. Now, you might stifle that throughout the process by immediately coming up with an idea, not giving any air to research or to ideation or to iteration or sketching or whatever. But at least there was something right in the beginning. The danger of what people do when it comes to portfolio pieces is because their process doesn't inherently have real research or real ideation. What a lot of people do is that they come up with the concept and the execution of it almost immediately. So they'll be like, okay, it's a poster for a theater program. I'm going to do this and it's going to look like this. But at least there was luckily someone told you to do the theater thing. So there's like something mildly exciting about it because now it's a to-do list, but not a cool one. The problem then, if all of that is decided in one instant, I need a poster for my portfolio. I want to work in movies. I'm going to do a poster for Get Out, and it's going to look like this. It's all been figured out. All that adventure stuff is gone. The only potential adventure in that instance is if it doesn't work out as planned and you have to try to figure out something new or how to make it work. It's kind of similar to how like when someone tells you how to design something, it's like the worst, most irritating thing in the world because it doesn't matter how cool it is. You're like, I don't just want to make the thing you told me to make. Final projects in schools get this a lot. If for 2 years you've been thinking about the project you're going to do, the content it's going to have, the way that you're going to do it, by the time it's time to do it, all the adventure part is gone because the adventure basically happened at that moment where you had all those ideas. And now it's just a thing you have to do. It's just more work. So if you figure out the content and the format, like I'm going to redesign a Gerhard Richter book because I want to do a book design. I love Gerhard Richter. Everything after that, leave it open and then do actual real research, but don't come up with a concept right away. Where I sort of figured this out from is that I would have ideas for projects and every little thing came together in my head. I would do the very first step and then it would become one more thing I never did. But the thing I realized was that everything else I procrastinate on sucks. Like I procrastinate on taxes and mowing the lawn and putting the laundry away. I don't procrastinate on making photographs. I don't procrastinate on making music. I don't procrastinate on going for walks. I don't procrastinate on drawing. But the boring stuff doesn't get done. So for me, what I look at it as is, if I'm procrastinating on it, it must be boring. Why is it boring? Because I figured everything out. And I figured it out to such an extent that there's no point in doing it. Because it's just like, oh, cool, I'll just daydream about that thing then. Like, oh, it'd be cool to do that podcast and blah, blah, blah. That would be great. And then I will never do it. I think you need adventure in the process. And the more of it you have, the less likely you are to procrastinate, provided you have an understanding of what steps you need to take. In this presentation, you saw like, I'm like obsessed with the idea of methodologies. Step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this. I do that so that everything that happens between those steps is starting fresh and starting from scratch and having that adventure. Like I didn't procrastinate on making the original Josh Harmony cover, and I didn't procrastinate on that thing where I added to it because it was fun. I think if I had reframed it as make a back cover for this, it's not so boring. But imagine how this can work as a full project. And if you do your proper amount of research, then it's motivating, and then it's challenging, but it's fun. So the thing I would think about in any project that you procrastinate on is, what have I done either in the planning or the formulation or even just my mindset around this project? What have I done that makes this suck? Because something has. Like, I'm a lifelong procrastinator. If it wasn't for my wife, like, I'd probably go to jail for tax evasion. Not for tax evasion, just because like I'm not doing that. It's boring. But I actually do a lot of stuff, and I get a lot of stuff done. But I think it's because I find a way to make all the stuff I get done, I find a way to make it fun, including commercial design work, which is for most of my career, was I get freelance projects, be so excited about it, think about it really, really hard, and then put it off to the last possible minute in a nightmare of frustration and staying up too late and calling them and saying I need another day and making up some BS excuse about why I needed another day, when the reality was that like the idea I was going to suddenly have a good idea after the previous 3 weeks is nonsense. But now, like, when I get projects, I'm hyper motivated to work on them. It has nothing to do with the money. It has everything to do with, I know that I get to have an adventure from the start to the finish. And I know that the process is delineated enough that I won't have any anxiety. It's like, okay, this is a fun thing that I get to do. And it's not because I'm like, I don't know, like, you know, like somebody like Aaron Draplin that's like, oh, it's all about fun. Like, it's not like that. It's a different thing. But I think it's important to figure out how to make that happen.
I hope that video gives you some stuff that you can use. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If there's something you want us to make a video about, leave a comment. Here's a clip from our next video. It's basically a half-hour Q&A on creative process, design career stuff like dealing with bad creative directors, and how to start and execute on projects when traditionally you haven't been the best at wrapping things up. Enjoy, and we'll see you next week. How did you get over the fear of just getting started? I feel like I have a lot of ideas, but I've never been an executor. I'm only 22, so I know I have the potential to change. Is your question related to that, or is it related to other kind of creative work? Personal projects, I want to start a brand. Okay, cool. Let's get into a bunch of things here. One is, it's in terms of starting stuff, it's super important to understand the particular way that you're wired. So if you're 22 and you feel like you've never been an executor, but you've been heavy on planning kind of your whole life, I am going to go out on a limb and say that executional part is not really going to change unless you find some way to get kind of massive leverage over yourself. There's like this Tony Robbins idea that if you want to get yourself to do something, you have to get emotional leverage over yourself. So in a really extreme example is, if you want to stop doing drugs, go to the morgue and look at bodies of people who've had drug overdoses. Now, obviously that sucks.